Hi, welcome to the Dairy Hour podcast, where rural charm meets personal growth. Join us as we milk every moment for wisdom, self-improvement, and mental wellness. I'm your host, Val Lavigne, a rural dairy farming mom with a passion for filling hearts while never forgetting to fill my own cup. Get ready for insightful conversations, empowering tips, and a splash of fun and laughs, of course. Let's cultivate growth, nourish our minds, and embrace the journey together. This is the Dairy Hour podcast, where every episode is a breath of fresh air and the inspiration you need to be your best self. Hey Dairy Hour listeners, if you're enjoying this show, leaving a review is the best way to help us grow and reach more people. Plus, I've got a little thank you for you. Snap a screenshot of your review, message it to me at DairyGalVal, and I will be sure to send some fun Dairy Hour stickers your way. Thanks for supporting the podcast, and I cannot wait to mail you some swag. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Dairy Hour podcast. I am your host, Val Lavigne, and I am here today with Kendra Kissane. Did I say it right?
You did say it right. Thank you so much for that.
I love how she described it. And when you look at her last name, it makes a whole bunch of sense. She goes, like a kiss with Kane, Kissane. And I was like, that works. It's like sweet and sappy, and then it just gets a little dark, but it's fine. We're here for it. So, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have a chance to sit down and get to know you better and chat with you. So for those of you that don't know who you are, do you want to give us a little introduction?
Yeah, my name's again, Kendra Kissane. I am a lifelong dairy girl, grew up in the industry. My parents and my family still dairy farm today, and we have an agritourism business. And then over the last 3 years, I founded my own company. And yeah, we basically provide sustainability solutions within the agriculture value chain.
That's wonderful. And where do you reside?
I currently reside in West Michigan, so just outside of Grand Rapids. But the home family farm is north of Big Rapids, so about an hour and a half north of Grand Rapids. So still northern/West Michigan.
Awesome. Those good old Midwest gals, for some reason, I'm drawn to people from the Midwest, and it's just so funny because I've even had people, which I don't hear it, but I don't know. I had someone when I was in Kansas City for the Dairy Girl Network conference. They were like, "Are you Midwest? Because you have a very Midwest accent." And I was like, I don't hear it, but you're from the Midwest and you're telling me I do. So maybe that's a thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I love it.
I think we say "ope" a lot too when you get a little bit farther north. People are always like, "Oh, you are from the Midwest," because you say "oh."
No, I don't say "oh." So
that's how you know you're probably really from the north. Or sorry. We say sorry for everything. They're like, "You don't have to be sorry." I'm like, it's just a phrase that we throw all the time. That's how you know we're literally from like the Chicago, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio region.
Yeah. I'm not actually sorry. It's just my way of like saying sorry.
Like instead of pardon me or excuse me, we say, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah, there you go. Oh my gosh, I love it. Got to work on my Midwest sayings, So I want to dial it back. You said your family has a dairy farm, so I'm guessing that you grew up on the dairy.
Yes, I grew up very active on the dairy farm. So from my earliest memories, I had a calf in my hand growing up. My best friend growing up was a cow. Her name was Iris, and I think about her every single day. You know how you like get to know people and people are like, "Well, why are you doing what you're doing in life?" And I should have a million more cows, but that's like, I love them so much. And whenever people see them, they're always like, "I thought of you today." I'm like, "Why'd you think of me?" They're like, "I saw a cow." And I'm like, oh, it like makes my heart so happy. But grew up on my family's dairy farm, very active in 4-H and FFA, did dairy judging, loved it so much that I would miss like varsity basketball games. And the coach is like, I would be benched essentially because I would be going to, with our local FFA chapter to like Pennsylvania or Louisville for the show, or to World Dairy Expo for judging contests. And I wouldn't care that I'm missing basketball. And people were like, "You really don't like basketball that much?" And I was like, I really like cows a lot, you guys. And funny enough, it's my life now. I mean, I work in agriculture and I just owe it all to the dairy cow. and,
Yeah.
teaching me about life and death at such a young age. And we had a registered Holstein, still do have a registered Holstein herd. And, with a splash of color, brown Swiss. My sister got into that. I would love a Jersey, but trying to get into the beef side of things just because we purchased our own farm recently too. So,
Oh, very exciting. So tell us a little bit more about the home farm. What size is it? What are some of the little tidbits? You mentioned agritourism.
yeah. So the farm now, my brother is going to be taking over as of January 1st, the dairy farm. So I'm really
Very exciting.
and his wife. And he met his wife on farmersonly.com, which is really cool. Just a
Excellent.
sweetheart. She's down by the Shipshewana, Indiana area, so Amish and Mennonite community. But that dairy farm is the family dairy farm with, the genetics that we basically grew up with. We're really heavily into genetics, and it's about 60 to 80 cows, double six herringbone parlor. For those who know, they know. And we used to we used to milk in a stanchion, glass 1.5 inch pipeline. And I love that barn. I mean, you still have the growth marks on the wall of us kids. I just loved how warm it was in the winter. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, now it's about 80. I mean, growing up, we probably had, 2 shifts. And so the most, maybe 60, and really focus on grazing as much as possible. So, yeah, that's where it's grown to. I'm really excited for my brother and his family and his kiddos. And about 3 years ago, we started into the agritourism. So right during COVID hit, we knew people needed to be outside, wanted to be outside, obviously, keeping that social distancing, which is just crazy. That's over 4 years ago, going on 5.
I know.
That happened. And it took off like wildfire. I mean, it's crazy because we don't want it to grow any bigger. We say that. But it's because we want to keep it small. We don't want it to be huge. And our focus is on tying the consumers back to agriculture. I mean, as you know, in the industry, over 99% now, as of 2024, are 3 times removed from agriculture. So only, 1.5% of the US grows our food. We're so blessed and so lucky. So we really are trying to, get people out and learning about agriculture. We have a corn maze and pumpkin patch. My mom and dad and the family does maple syrup, pork, beef. My sister-in-law, my brother, they do eggs as well. But again, it's very on a small scale. And then we also do veggies and sweet corn too.
Very cool.
Busy. The toughest time of the year is usually the fall because not only working full time, my husband and I, but then also the corn maze. Fridays we have the kids from the local schools come out, and then Saturday and Sunday we're open too. So, and we do fun light up flashlight nights through the maze, haunted corn maze, all that good fun stuff. But we're just basically trying to diversify, obviously, the farm so we can stay economically viable for that next generation. And milk prices get low because that happens.
Wait, it does? Hold on.
I
don't know anything about that.
Yeah. So, and then we love, going to as many shows as we can, and sales, but sometimes the pocketbook doesn't allow us to purchase the cattle we want to purchase. But on the genetic side, it's just fun. We really love animals and earth. So
good. I love it. So at what point, obviously you said you grew up really close to agriculture. Did you always know that, getting into agriculture was something you were going to do when you grew up? Or is it something that at one point you were just like, oh, I need to be involved in agriculture?
I think it was a little bit of both. And I feel so fortunate for great mentors in my life. And I would say one of them, obviously, or both of them being my mom and my dad. And everybody in our family on both sides, my mom and my dad's side, they were farmers, or they were working in agriculture, or they were a teacher. And I really wanted to go to a big land grant university, like a Michigan State University, but it wasn't in the finances for us. My dad, try to get schooling paid for. So I went to a business school, a small, really good business school. And I was so mad my freshman year because I was like, I miss agriculture. I don't know what I'm doing here. so happy I got my business degree and focused a little bit in healthcare too. But long story short, I just knew I wanted to get right back into agriculture. My heart has always been in it. It's been my passion. I feel so fortunate that I get to work for the people that put food on our plates every single day and make an impact and who care. I'm not saying everybody's good at being a farmer. It's hard work. And I think most of the time it's just because there's a lack of technical or financial items out there why people aren't doing the best that they can do. And I want to help more with that. I enjoy it. I didn't always know I wanted to, but I'm so happy that it was in my heart and my soul. It was like my center. So
yeah, it was always calling you.
Yeah, it was. And that's where I feel most connected. I wish I could be outside more often, but I think just this season in my life, I spend more time behind the computer, and that's okay. Because I get to, again, work with amazing people. I get to like meet people like you, Val, you know what I mean? And get to have more conversations. So
yeah, definitely. And someone, we need those people out there having the conversations also, as well as the ones that are actually out there working on the farm every day. As long as you stay grounded, I think within your agriculture center, I think that's, there's definitely a place in agriculture for everyone. And, it's not a one size fits all. There's so many different opportunities within agriculture that, ensuring that people find their right fit is very important, because farming is definitely not cut out for everyone, but there's definitely other jobs that are definitely something that other people could lean into. So I definitely appreciate that. And so you went to college, and then where did you go from there?
yeah. So actually in college, I played 2 sports to pay for schooling.
Nice.
A farm kid, farm kids that are really involved with like everyday farm activities, we're busy. And so like going into college, playing 2 sports, it paid for schooling for me, but then I also had a couple jobs. So probably my junior year, I ended up studying abroad and learning Spanish. And
Where did you go?
I went to Costa Rica.
Very nice.
Yeah. And coming back, I ended up working for the International Study Abroad office. And I really loved Spanish. I really loved all their cultures. And I was like, man, if I could like marry the two, like agriculture and like speaking Spanish, like, oh my gosh, sure enough, Michigan Milk Producers Association was looking for someone that could train employees and present for milker training schools. And so I was a junior. They really wanted somebody that had a bachelor's degree, but they were willing to kind of not let that slide. Obviously, I had to finish my bachelor's degree, but
yeah,
and then finish out my degree. So I did that. I worked for a Great Lakes dairy cooperative, and I ended up being a field representative. So as you know, right, you probably have a field representative, did those day-to-day inspections, milk quality testing. And I learned a lot more about dairy farming, which was just like so awesome at the same time, getting to actually speak Spanish and train. And I learned so much more about, oh, that's why I have to make sure I post it. That's why my dad was on me all the time. And it's like, man, if my dad would have like kind of explained why, like I would have like made sure. So it was so funny because like every single time I'd go home and help milk, I'm like, oh, I learned this, that this is why we have to do this. This is why we have to have proper, like, udder prep procedures for milk letdown. So we can, it's awesome. And I loved it. And that's kind of how the role of what I did and got into agriculture kind of just like transitioned in the dairy industry. It's crazy to think, but I don't know if you remember, 750,000 somatic cell count was the domestic threshold. And then you had the European Union, because a lot of the products or dairy was going into the global market. And at least our dairy cooperative, Michigan Milk Producers Association, and DFA and several others, right, were wanting to get to like 400 to even 250,000 somatic cell count. And so really worked hard on cultures, understanding what types of mastitis were out there. And it's so funny because like we were just doing what was right. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
dairy farmers, you're just wanting to make sure you're doing what's right and keeping more milk in the tank, obviously. But like little did we know that early, that's over 15 years ago, which is crazy to think. Like today we call that sustainability.
Yeah.
And I was crazy.
So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I too, in my past life, was a field rep in New York State. So
5. I
don't know exactly what you
5. Who did you work for?
I did work for DFA. It was Dairy Lee at the time in the Northeast that I originally got the job with, and then it transferred into DFA while I was there. And I actually do technically still carry my New York State milk inspector's license.
Oh, cool.
To this day, I do not work for DFA anymore. That was once I had my twins, I was like, this isn't really the job that I'm looking for. So I kept my license and stayed on as an independent private inspector. And I have, 18 or 19 farms right now that I inspect privately. So
That's so cool. My mom used to work for DFA. She just retired a couple of years ago.
diversification.
Yeah.
That's my diversification. So,
Cool.
dear, so you got into doing your field repping, and then where did life take you after that?
So yeah, kind of from, the 750,000 somatic cell count from there, I literally would go onto farms and, again, not every farm is a good farm or are they're trying their best, but, sometimes lacking resources. And that was the time where we started to see on social media, animal welfare concerns, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to get a black eye, in the dairy industry. And I had to remind my friends, like, hey, all farmers aren't like this.
Yes.
My
favorite like comparison is, and I'm not out here saying like all farmers are perfect, all farmers treat their cows perfectly. I am out here saying, okay, so if you see a person on the news that maybe was your neighbor that gets arrested for abusing their dogs, does that therefore mean that every person that has dogs abuses their dogs? Do you, as a dog owner, do you like that person that abused their dogs? No. So I like to do that comparison. So like if you see one person that it maybe isn't the best person in the world at taking care of their cows, that does not mean that every other farm around them doesn't take care of their cows. That's a one-off example. And I love to explain that to people because you can kind of see that light bulb, like when you take it and compare it to something different, that like they just get that like light bulb, like, oh, that does make a lot of sense. And I'm like, yes. So if you see one person doing something bad, it doesn't mean that everyone around them is doing something bad. It means that that one person is not a very good person, not that everybody else is a bad person. So
as a busy mom and dairy farmer, I'm always looking for ways to support my family's health as well as my own, and I absolutely love Wonder Cow Colostrum. It's packed with essential nutrients, great for supporting gut health, boosts immunity, and promotes overall wellness. Whether it's for me, my kids, or anyone looking to stay strong and healthy, Wonder Cow is my go-to daily supplement. I have been taking it for a year now, and it is irreplaceable in my daily routine. If you want to experience the amazing benefits of colostrum too, you can use my special code, DairyGalVal, at checkout for a discount. Give Wonder Cow a try, and you will definitely feel the difference.
I couldn't agree more with you because I always tell people good people do bad things and bad people do good things. And we have good priests, we have bad priests, we have good doctors, we have bad doctors, and it goes throughout life.
Yeah.
And I say good farmers, know what's right. And I'm so happy. And that's kind of like how things transitioned, getting back to like how and where I went from there, working with National Milk Producers Federation at the cooperative. And I remember getting the first draft of the farm animal care program. So Farmers Assuring Responsible Management. We had already adopted the antibiotic stewardship booklets, right? And knowing what to test for. Yeah. And then after that, it came the animal care, and they wanted to call it animal care evaluations. And I remember kind of went through like a sales, how we were going to, introduce this to farms to get them to voluntarily want to do this. And I remember saying evaluation's a hard word, not a hard word, but like, it's not palatable.
Yeah.
I don't want to take part in an evaluation. Like, why don't we call it program and like bring farms on this journey? And so from there, obviously, that was the animal welfare side, but it's really crazy over the last 15 years in the dairy industry, how things have kind of transcended. And I've really gotten to be a part of it in the Great Lakes region. And from there, it was environmental stewardship. So getting customer questionnaires for the cooperative, asking about what are you doing in terms of lowering your greenhouse gas emissions. And so the cooperative was doing energy audits and then milker system evaluations. So to make sure that they're operating and running proficiently, and helped develop and implement that within the dairy cooperative too. And that's right when, 2020 now, 2019, and US Dairy was going to come out with their net zero initiative. And I had just implemented along with a couple really large consumer packaging good companies like Unilever. So that's like your Unilever, they're a consumer packaging good company. And then there's Barry Callebaut and a couple others like Nestle developed a sustainability program for the cooperative to help farmers be able to monetize off of the good things that they are doing. And US Dairy was like, hey, Kendra. I was like, hey, my dream job would be to work for them.
Yeah.
So took a role at US Dairy within the Innovation Center for US Dairy. Got to work with a great team. Angela Anderson from Starbucks. She used to work there. And then Kelly, I think you got to meet her, Kelly Sheridan. She's now at US DEC. So US DEC is the Dairy Export Council. We were on a great team. Josh Luce, he works for Schreiber now. We had a really great team. I'm missing a whole bunch of people's names, but launched the Net Zero Initiative, which was really great and fun. And we are like, oh my gosh, we have these goals. We got to like have a roadmap and like actually meet these goals.
Yes.
So that's kind of where from there I've played in this space and really worked to find those solutions that are ultimately, hopefully, getting real money onto farms for the great work that they're doing. Because, I mean, that's important, is to keep a diverse, inclusive farm supply of products going into stores and on the tables of many. I dream of a day where we don't lose any farm and we're putting farmers back on the market. As you know, as a field representative back in the early days, that was like part of our job. And these days it's like, oh gosh, who's going out now? Like going to the market. And I hope one day we can get back to that.
Me too. And that's kind of also, the diversification of different farms being able to contribute to the market. That's something that I stand up for all the time, because people are like, oh, big farms are bad. Oh, small farms are bad. Oh, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, no, there should, in an industry that's ideal, there should be a place for everybody. Because like my farm, we're not huge. We milk around 160 cows. We don't have the land base or even the flat ground to build another barn to milk many more than 200 if that's the way we wanted to go. We also wouldn't have the croplands to be able to feed those cows. So we've had to diversify in different, to stay in business over the years. But then people are like, oh, well, you're a small farm. You should not like big farms. And I'm like, why? They are just out there doing, they're doing what's right for them. And I think that that's one of those things that we need to, just as an industry, and I think as like a world as a whole, as a human being, I think that that's one thing that we need to remember, that like, just because, and I guess it just goes back to that, like saying, if someone is different than you, that doesn't mean they're bad. That means that they're doing what works for them. And I think that even especially as an industry, we need to remember that. And when you come at it from the sustainable practices standpoint, if one farm is doing one thing and one farm is doing another thing, that doesn't mean that either farm is wrong. That means that they're doing what is feasible and works for them. But this other farm, maybe whatever farm A is doing, maybe that's not for farm B. Maybe they have a completely different way of going about it, but maybe still achieving the same outcome. So I think that that's one thing that, even just as a human being, that's something that we all need to remember. Like, if one person does one thing and you do a different thing, that doesn't mean the other person is wrong. It just means that they have a different viewpoint from you. So
I couldn't agree more. And I try to always paint that picture like you just did for others. And farms are businesses. And a lot of large farms are also multi-families that have pooled their resources, and they've decided to do it together. And I mean, was it 95% of the volume in the dairy industry here domestically in the US are family owned and operated? I think that's and it may actually be higher now. I could be wrong on that.
The recent DMI fact is 94% of U.S. dairy farms are family owned and operated.
I knew I could have been off. I was like, that might be a year or two old.
Yeah, and I think it's changed a lot just because there's been such a mass exodus of farms over the last few years that, it's those smaller, those smaller farms that are caving and selling out is just decreasing that number, where I think that the percent that is not quote unquote family owned, I don't think it's changed. I think it's more just the other number is decreasing, so they take up a larger percentage.
That would be agree. It's the volume, right?
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, yeah. And
that would be my.
I am getting to learn a little bit more about like consumers and like on the customer side of things. So like a customer's like a friend that didn't grow up in the industry, right? And a consumer. And I'm hearing they're very educated nowadays, and not all, right? Some, but
yes,
they're like, we just don't want what has happened in the pork and poultry, or even egg, right? So poultry to happen to the dairy industry, or even like the beef. And I'm like, ooh, well, beef, like it depends on what part of the beef supply chain you're talking about, right? Like we just don't want that to happen to any more farms. And I'm like, we don't either. Like we don't either. Like it is really tough.
It's unbelievably hard.
Yeah.
And that's definitely on the front, on the front faces of everyone in the dairy industry is, the industry is going to change, just like everything over time has to change and evolve and do different things. But, trying to hold on to that legacy and keeping, those families from being wiped out, that's very important. And I think that's something that the industry as a whole has done they've done a really good job of trying to stop that ripple effect. Not necessarily 100% effective, but I think that, to an extent, it's lesser than it could have been based upon how the economy and situations all around the world are going. So,
and succession planning is so hard. I remember talking about it in Farm Bureau when I was on the board, goodness, over 10 years ago. And I didn't even understand it then. And now, like in the thick of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like no wonder we have an aging demographic of farmers. And like, it's hard to even touch on how painful and hard it is. And I'm wondering how you guys handled that with your farm. Like, it's
not great.
Yeah.
Not great yet. Thankfully, our farm is actually, we're a family farm, but we are actually a corporation because of the multitude of business. We have a lot of different businesses within the business.
Yeah.
With the businesses and the business and the business, So, we have that, and it's just my husband and I don't have any siblings to have to worry about. But honestly, we are like behind the 8 ball on doing succession planning. And, it's one of those things where you bring it up and you're like, yes, we really need to do this, and we need to start figuring this out. And then it just kind of like other things come up and you're like, oh, well, that's more important in the here and now. And it just gets shuffled down the line. No other people do that, do they?
It's crazy. No. And I am like so passionate about this because it's like, I would love to find a solution. But then at the end of the day, I think it's really getting, this is going to sound crazy, but therapists in the room, somebody that's an intermediary.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so complex, right?
Yes.
Who has been there, who is putting in the sweat equity, who's even putting in the money, right? In the time. And sometimes farm succession planning isn't about being fair. It's about who's showing up, putting in the hours and is dedicated.
Yeah.
So it transcends into that next generation. I heard some other podcasts, and I'm like, if we really want to talk about, farms and their legacy, it gets tough.
Yes. And like I said, thankfully, I don't have like any siblings that are going to come in and be like, no, I want my piece of the farm, even though I haven't worked on it a day in my life. But my husband and I are right here every day doing the things. So knock on wood, that part is going to be easier. But there's still just a whole multitude of issues that we have to work through as far as just legally and paperwork wise and monetary wise and all the different things. So, but that's for another day, not today.
Yeah. And that's where I'm like, my brother, he deserves it. He showed up. He's, has stayed.
Yeah.
His wife and him, they're putting in the work and all that stuff. And however I can support, let me know, right? Mom and Dad, you do what's best for you guys and what you believe. So.
Yes. And that's one of those things, like, I really admire that about you, that you're like so open, like, hey, I'm not on the farm every day. Like, this isn't where I'm at. Nothing irks me more than people that I care about saying there's an issue or, someone passes away and then all of a sudden, Sally, who hasn't been there in 25 years, sees a dime to maybe get off of it and comes flying back. Well, part of this is mine. Okay, well, what did you do around here that makes it part of yours? Like, I'm sorry.
I literally want to scream from the rooftops. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even think I've ever told my brother, like, Evan, my brother's name, like, the farm's yours. Like, you deserve it. You showed up. You've put in the time, the sweat, the blood, the tears, the late nights and seeing animals die. Like, my portion was such a small little portion. And then just the agritourism side, like, I'm just helping from like a business standpoint. Like, yes, but like, I wish I could be there all day, every day. Like, I wish, like, I would love to, but life has just taken a different, route. And I can't wait for one day, hopefully I can purchase, a part of the family farm. And we've talked to my parents about that, but that's hard, right? Because again, there's lots of emotions and it depends on like what my brother wants too. And we would never sell it. I wonder if you can actually write in a will, not a will, but like in a contract that like it always has to stay in family. I'm sure you can, but it's cool to see it generation to generation. But then also there shouldn't ever be that pressure in terms of like, you need to stay farming. It makes sense because like you said, sometimes it just mentally you need to maybe not do it.
Yes. Agreed. Or maybe it's just not meant for certain people, and that's fine. I was just chatting with someone about how we want our next generation to have the option to be a part of the farm if they so choose to, but we don't want them to feel pressured that like that's your only option in life. Like, you have to come back to the farm. Like, I worked so hard for this to be here for you. You have to come back. But if that's not where someone's at, like, that's the worst thing you can do to a person is be like, no, you have to be here. Like, we did this for you. Like,
it should never be like that, because that's a lot of pressure on anybody. And we all deserve to, and I think that kind of goes back to like businesses look differently. All businesses are different, and because a business is a farm, right? A farm is a business. It's just beautiful. We should allow each generation to make it, if they want to, if they come back, for their dream to take or unfold.
Yeah. And make it their own and make it a place that they want to be and the place that they want to be a part of. That's very important. Sometimes I'm sure that it's very tricky, but it's also very, very important. So let's chat a little bit about more of your day-to-day. So your current role and like the different fun, exciting things that you get to do.
Yeah. So I feel, again, very blessed that I get to work in agriculture and with people. So over the last 3 years, since I've entered into the consulting space, I have gotten the chance to work with, I want to call them like service providers or people that are providing real solutions to help farmers be able to monetize off of the good work that they're doing environmentally. And we call that also sustainability. So I hate using the word sustainability because it's like, it's what the good thing that farmers are already doing for their community, for their soil, for earth, for their animals. Like, yes, we're branding it as sustainability. Farmers have been doing this for, good farmers for a long time. So
buzzword,
Yeah, right. But what's here to stay, I have a hunch.
Yes.
So on my, day to day, I am working with a company out of Australia and other colleagues from Europe, and soil carbon projects has been a primary focus. So farmers that are implementing like no-till or regenerative, that's another buzzword, regenerative practices like no-till, cover crops, buffer strips, conservation tillage, doing a little bit more pasture or rotational grazing. Our traditional sense of like rotational grazing is, I put them out on this paddock for this many days, really don't know how many, what they're eating, they can eat kind of whatever. And I'm also supplementing. This is a little bit more like strategic where, this is a set number of days, set stocking density, and we're going to make sure they're not out overgrazing because we're really trying to build like that soil carbon, even on like the cover crop side, like what type of cover crops are going to work best for your soil type. And then going into like the biodiversity side and understanding what needs to be quantified to validate and then also measure, and then hopefully get money within the voluntary carbon market or even within the producer supply chain, somebody that wants to purchase those carbon credits and that be like a transaction. So that's been really fun. I actually got to be on several calls this year and work day to day on a project out of Brazil, and did not realize, it's really scary, what's happening in the beef industry down in Brazil.
Yeah.
Of indigenous cultures within the rainforest, and how these farmers, they don't want to do bad things, but they want to keep their family fed. The burning of the rainforest and what's that's doing to our oceans, and how it's changing the weather patterns and the streams and climate, and then even losing a lot of, great habitats of even diverse animals. So like jaguars and different types of bird populations are becoming extinct. And I'm like, wow, if my day-to-day, I feel so fortunate and lucky that I get to work on something that's so meaningful, because not only is that agriculture, it's really helping this next generation, and I feel good about it. But here domestically, I got to, every day is actually different. So I hate even like saying, what's my day to day? I sit behind a computer and meet with people, or I'm out on farms. So I got to, this year, it was really cool. I got to visit the largest ranch in the US. Don't really want to say their name, but that was really cool.
I know what their name is because I'm up to date on my facts.
Yeah. And that was like a dream of mine to just,
that would be so cool.
It was very cool. And the individual we got to meet with and their team was really cool. He's an heir, so down to earth and really wanting to make a difference and do good. So that was really cool. And then I also, it was really cool. And just getting to see the impact that they're making and who they're working with on the beef side. So that was on the beef side. Obviously, beef on dairy is really big. Getting into that and understanding the opportunities that lie there for dairy farmers too. Got to do a little bit of work with, I can't say their name either, but a large animal health company that is doing feed additives. And the math isn't mathing, but there's a large opportunity if the math could math for dairy farmers too. So it's like the feed additive space for reducing methane emissions. And that was really fun, providing some strategic oversight and planning of how they can help get more money for that to be utilized on farms. So,
yeah, there are some really, really exciting, neat technological advances coming down the pipeline. Technology really is, it's just crazy, some of the things that people can do and some of the things that we can provide, as a broad basis for doing things more sustainably and, helping out our planet and helping out our farmers all at the same time, because that's also a huge part of it, I believe, in sustainability.
I agree. One of the hard things, though, that I keep kind of racking my head against is these investors that are pouring all this money into investing in these tech companies. Some of this technology isn't going to work for farmers.
Yeah.
And I really wish they had somebody on their investment team or their risk management team for these investment firms to say, have you checked with a group of farmers if it's going to work for them? Yeah. Because you have such a small percentage. Yes, they make up a large percent of the volume, but again, it's not, it's not over 50% of the demographic that are going to, implement these technologies. Like, it comes at a cost. And not only are those technologies coming at a cost to farmers, but you're also helping. I think I even spoke about this at the Dairy Girl Network Forward Together National Conference, but it comes at a cost for the producers to help research and development to make it even better. And so it's like, man, they're really profiting off of dairy farmers. Like, we have to turn it around.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
definitely.
You have those conversations on your guys' behalf, because it's not great that every day it comes down to the farmers having to pinch their pennies to implement this technology.
Yeah, it definitely makes it hard, especially, with the economics that we've had the last few years, trying to be as, deliberate with each dollar spent on the farm and what the return on investment is going to be for that dollar. Because let's face it, we're to the point where we're working on margins where we have to be sure that those dollars are working for us, not against us. So that's definitely things to keep in mind.
ROI, also replacement, right?
Yeah.
Or like the services being provided. Is there a fee for me to even use that platform? Like, goodness. And who's putting in that data? It's so complex.
Yeah, I need to spend more money per month, and I need to not waste more of my time, but like take more of my time up every month. That sounds perfect. Like, said no farmer ever.
Right. You get to talking to a lot of these farmers and you're like, what do you miss most? And like being with the animals, being outside.
Yes.
And I'm like, noted. Because I miss that.
Even though I don't want to be outside today because it is currently downpouring out here. Looking rather yucky. Yeah. Need sunshine back again. To heck with this weather. So anything else that you want the audience to hear about your message before we move on to some more fun rapid fire questions?
Yeah, I basically just want to ensure that everybody knows that my heart is for everybody in terms of the farmers, the ranchers, the producers, the growers. Like, I want to help your voice. Like, please message me if you ever just want to be heard, and I will pass it up or within the supply chain because I want everybody's voices to be heard and hopefully try to find solutions.
Awesome. Yes, I love that you are in fact that middle person for, helping to have farmers' backs essentially when the farmers don't necessarily have the time to go out and have their own backs on this. Because nothing is worse than having decisions be made for you from someone who does not understand what you're going through. It's kind of like the government. Like, they make a lot of decisions about agriculture and most of them have no clue. Say most, there are some really great people that do in fact do their research and find out. But it just stinks that we are so far removed from agriculture that there's a lot of people making decisions that affect us that we have no say in, nor can we be necessarily in those places to reach out and do that legwork because farmers are so busy as it is, let alone adding more stuff to their days. So thank you.
For one may not work for the other. And I think that the challenge, like I remember getting asked to do a project this year about how longevity and decisions. I was like, I literally laughed. I was like, that is on a farm, like probably month by month basis. Like it is just like up to what is the market, like what needs to get like you want to know why? Like it's going to be totally up to that farm's decisions.
Yes.
Like, really.
And here's your pages and pages and pages of data that makes no sense whatsoever because everyone does their own thing.
Yeah, there's guidelines that farm has, but like, again, it is definitely up to the owner and their team that they have.
100%. I love it. So I want to switch into get to know a little bit more about you and do some fun rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So are you a coffee or a tea?
I used to be a diehard coffee, black. I'm a Dutch girl. And now I drink tea just because I am my father's child and it hurts my stomach.
Coffee done ruined ya.
Yeah, but if I do have coffee, it's with lots of milk, whole milk.
Same, says the girl with the very large Yeti cup at the most.
Cheers.
And I was never a black coffee person, but my coffee has a touch of French vanilla creamer to give it that like French vanilla flavor. And then I put the rest whole milk in it because I'm a wimp and don't like it to be crazy, crazy hot. So
same.
So here we are.
Same. I like mine like lukewarm, not even cold. I prefer.
Yes. I mean, like warm is good, but like, I don't know, my dad drinks his and he'll like take coffee from a convenience store and then microwave it so it's even hotter. And I'm like, how do you drink that? Like my tongue would be blistered. I don't get it.
That's my mom all day. And my husband, he's microwaving his coffee.
Yeah, can't do it. No, mine, if it's like if I've been working on it for a while and it's like my second cup or whatever and it gets like somewhat cold by the end, I still just drink it. I'm like, no, it's perfect. Like, don't even need to warm it up. So so outside of obviously agriculture, what is your like go-to hobby?
I'm a dreamer. I love dreaming of like a good Pride and Prejudice, like Renaissance era, or even like visiting like the 1500, 1600 century villages. So traveling. I love traveling. And I love traveling and visiting different agriculture areas. Just getting out and yeah. And
I like to travel and visit more farms. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, you're exactly right. Growing up, did we ever go on vacation? Yes, of course we did. We visited other farms.
Yes. Gotta go see what they're up to. Gosh, I love it. That is definitely a farmer thing to say.
Yeah.
No. Oh, I love it. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, my favorite ice cream flavor is strawberry shortcake
Ooh, that sounds delightful.
by Hudsonville Creamery. So it
Okay. We just got a little bit of their ice cream in our local store. Actually, there's some in my fridge right now, and it's not strawberry shortcake though. I have it's like brownie batter with like cookie dough chunks in it.
yum.
So, and my mom is obsessed with the Hudsonville peanut butter, whatever it is. So,
Or I like Ben and Jerry's Chunky Monkey, but I think they changed the original like recipe. So
you lost me at that because banana is not my, right? Because there's banana in it.
Chunky Monkey actually didn't. That's oddly enough, I don't think that had banana in it. And I don't think it still has banana in it. I'm gonna have to look now because I still have a little pint.
I'm not a big Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I don't know. Sometimes their flavors get a little too over the top for me. So,
A friend introduced it to me in college, and so it was like always late night splurge.
someone on here is probably going to come for me and be like, why do you not like Ben and Jerry's? But I also live in Stewart's country, which is a convenience store, but they make ice cream. So like that's a big thing around me. And then there's a couple local ice cream places that make their own ice cream that like I'm all for it. So
Oh my God. If you ever get a chance to try Mooville, I grew up with showing with the Westendorps. They have, I don't know if you like Dutch cookies, but they have a ice cream flavor called If You Aren't Dutch, You Aren't Much. I think it's 8. But anyways, it's so good. That is actually my favorite. I lied. I love Mooville. I love that family too.
I lied. Never mind. My favorite kind is all of them.
Yes, I was gonna say, well, how can you pick even my favorite? Like, I just try new ones. I love them. All dairy, all ice.
All the ice. I'm all the ice cream. Yeah, definitely. If you could live anywhere besides where you are, where would you live?
On the home farm that I grew up on. That's where I'd like to live. Or in the English countryside in the Cotswolds of England.
We need to be like, yeah, we're officially friends. So I'm pretty sure I've admitted this.
And yeah.
I've admitted this on the podcast before, and I'm gonna do it again. But I am I don't like intense things like dramatic. Like when I watch TV, like I don't want to watch anything scary. I don't want to watch anything like over the top dramatic because it stresses me out. And I have enough stress in my life, so I want to watch like something funny and light and relaxed. Except for Yellowstone, but that's a whole nother story. Like it's so intense that I sit there and I literally shake when I'm watching it because I'm pathetic, but it's fine. It's because I'm a whole heart. Like I get into things with my whole heart. Like just like books. Like when I read a book, do you ever read a good book and you literally just dive into the book? And then when you stop reading that book, you're just like, there's a reality around me that's not in this book. Like, how did this happen? What's going on? I live to read in the winter, especially because I don't usually get enough time. So, but my go-to 1800s London novels.
Tell me. That's just I love that.
I love them.
Love. Yeah.
I was born in the wrong century. I was obsessed with Laura Ingalls as a girl, and I still am to this day, obsessed with Little House on the Prairie, everything. But I also I have the England, 1800s England, that's my thing.
I'm putting it on our vision board for the future. We will be working in England together because I'm going to hire you to do something.
Okay. Bring me to England. Okay. Just my
travel too while we're there.
Okay. So my mom and I have a thing and we send each other castles that are for sale on Facebook all the time. And we're like, oh, this one's wonderful, like blah, blah, blah. But I would only change, this chamber. And oh my gosh, there was one castle and I'm so bummed. Like, why was I not born a wealthy farmer? Like, because there was a castle for sale in England and it came with a title. And I was like, I am meant for this job. Like, come on, I would be a duchess in my life. I must have been. Like, I had to have been.
Because and manners over there in England and even in like Ireland or Scotland, like all.
Yeah. There's some really nice ones. I think it's like the south of France.
Oh, I believe it. Actually, I have a
They're
client
great.
that has been living in the south of France, and I'm just so jealous because I would love to visit.
Yep. They're amazing. And they're like, you're just like walking through town and there's a castle. And you're like, oh,
I did not know that there was that many in France, the south of France.
yeah, that's my
You know
mom.
there is. Now I know why.
Kept sending me these castles. And I don't know, the last one, it was like 5.8 million or something. We were like, yeah, I mean, there's not much I would sell the farm for, but like, let's sell the farm and move to France to live in this castle because girls got a dream.
Earlier
That's
this year,
right.
we got to stay at Allenborough Park in the Cotswolds of England. If you ever get a chance to like Google that, like, my gosh, by the way, we did not pay for it, but I felt very lucky to be staying there.
Yes. Yeah. I'm all about the castles.
So far, yeah, I believe it. Me too. Yes.
So on that note, what are you reading?
I just finished Atomic Habits.
Okay.
Book, and then before that, I'm trying to remember what book, The Four Agreements. And I do see a therapist, no shame at all. I've been doing that for quite a while because I think, why not see a professional for my mind,
Yes.
right? And she just recommended another book I don't even know if I want to say it out loud, but I probably will keep that. But
You're good. Whatever.
I'm just trying to think, because it's adult children of emotionally immature parents. But I think it's just like also to teach me about like other people that like friends that are going through things too. So I am currently reading. But I do love, I think, some of my summer novel reads. Shamelessly been reading a lot of Colleen Hoover. I could finish those in a day. My favorite book is Pride and Prejudice.
Perfect. I love it. See, we're very similarly in that genre.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I'm a good novel gal all the time. I do read some like Atomic Habits and things like that, but I don't know, sometimes I just need a break. So I want to read a book and I think that's why I like the 1800s and not like more current stuff, because I liked it. It's like so far removed from like anything that's going on now. It's wonderful. And you can just transport yourself away and not worry about anything else. So
I always have like a book list I'm trying to get through that is like personal, like that I enjoy, right? Enjoyment, but then also like not self-help, but kind of self-help.
no, I know what you mean though.
And so a lot of Brene Brown books I read this year too. Just to help it. I just actually read on my way to Chicago like 2 weeks ago, Braving the Wilderness. That one was a great one too. I learned a lot about myself, and that's what a lot of these books are for, is more like, what do I want to be and what do I not want to be?
Yeah.
Even helping friends or colleagues, right, to have those tough conversations and maybe be able to point them in the direction of self-help books too.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. Let me find one more good one. Oh, this is a tricky one. What's your favorite thing about yourself?
That I can talk to a wall. No. I think and I say that like laughingly because I'm sure you've dairy judged, right? But like practicing and giving your oral reasons, growing up, my favorite thing is that I can practice what I'm going to say and not be afraid to like literally talk to a wall to practice.
Yep.
And walk into a room probably and be okay with not knowing anybody, because I want to get to know people. I want to learn more about the world and less about me and who me already know.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. And I pretty much ask everyone this with these two questions. It's one and then a follow-up. Favorite place you've ever traveled?
My favorite place I ever have traveled is I would say, goodness, there's a couple, but Castle Combe in England.
Okay. There you go. And what's your bucket list travel place?
Goodness, there's so many. My bucket list travel, I would say Patagonia.
That's a new one that you don't hear very often, so that's great.
Or just untouched. I think it's the wilderness. So
see, and I'm not a huge See, that's the only thing that would have gotten me if I was in the, I am not a wilderness camper. Like, I'm a farmer, but I like to feel like I'm somewheres. Middle of nowheres kind of freaks me out a bit. And I guess the old school Duchess in me, I do not sleep in a sleeping bag on the ground. So camping is not my thing
either. And I don't think I would be camping. Hopefully not. Maybe it would be just like one night, but and hopefully there would be like a little lodge somewhere or a cabin.
Yeah, no, I'll try a little extra to sleep in a bed. Thank you. Like, even my mom is like, oh, I really think that the girls, we should, go camping. Like, I'm like, by all means, take them. I won't be joining you unless there's a bed and maybe some air conditioning, because I am just that kind of person. It's not for me. So, at this point in the podcast, I love to ask a deeper thought question that was actually left by a previous guest. And I'm going to scan quick and find a good question for you. You like to meet people and you like to know, you said you're good walking into a room not knowing anybody. What is one question that you wish more people would ask when they meet you for the first time?
Ooh, yeah. I thought you were going to say, what is one question that you wish more people would ask, like you want to ask more people?
I turned it back on you. Sorry.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. I do not know. I think more people are starting to do this. Like, why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
What's your why? And I think people are asking that these days. So yeah.
It is. It's a big thing. And I was actually just talking about this with Brandy Buzzard, about how, being involved in agriculture is great. And, being, working hard on the farm or ranch or wherever you may be is really important. But you need to take the time to find something that really speaks to you and keeps your soul happy. Because when you are old, and if you just, spent your entire life with cows and you've basically neglected any other relationship in life, like, who's going to be there when you're old and can't work on the farm? What are you going to look back on life and remember, like, oh, I'm so happy that no one looks back on life and is like, oh, I'm so happy I worked 20 hours a day for 50 years. Like, that's not, and we were also chatting about how we're so happy that the conversation is headed in a good direction. And it fosters that better mental health within people in agriculture, because they're learning that it is okay to step away from the farm for, whether it be an hour a day or a couple times a week, or for a day a week, to do something for you that's not necessarily just related to the farm. I mean, if you can honestly work on the farm and not do anything outside of the farm and say that you're actually happy, good for you, but that's not me. And I feel like there was just a stigma for so long about how you weren't allowed to go have a life outside of the farm. And I love that this generation is changing that stigma. So, sorry.
I completely agree with you. Just like we diversify our farms portfolio, we should diversify our personal portfolio, our mentally and physically. Learn and grow in both ways, right?
Definitely. And yeah, I just it is crazy to think back though, when you get to where you're 90 years old and you're looking back over your life, you don't want to be like, I worked my entire life, I didn't do all of this stuff that I really wanted to do. Then why did you bother living your life if you didn't live your life? So gotta live our lives. That's what we gotta do. And on that note, what is that one quote that really motivates you, inspires you to go out there and be the best person that you can be every day?
Can't always direct the way the wind blows, but we can always we can't always direct the way the wind blows, but we can always adjust our sail. And I forget who has quoted that, but it's always been a life motto of mine.
And why does that resonate with you?
Because I think life comes at us from different angles, and it gets harder as we get older and as we know and learn more, right? Ignorance really sometimes is bliss. And yeah, we can't direct the way the wind blows, but we can adjust life. We can be resilient. We can have grit, determination, perseverance, and just keep working. Another one I really love is Earth is What We All Have in Common, and that is by Wendell Berry. And he's a poet and a farmer. And that's how I try to approach the conversations when I talk to people about agriculture. And they think that agriculture is the problem and we're the big bad guys. And I say, no, at the end of the day, Earth is what we all have in common. That's how we're going to bridge this communication gap, this knowledge gap, everything that we're working on together.
I love it. That one's very fitting for you in the sustainability space as well. So I like it a lot. Thank you. Is there anything else that you want people to know about you? Any last tidbits?
No, not at all. Thank you so much, Val, for having me. I really appreciate, doing this and getting to know you more, hopefully behind the scenes later. I would love to ask you 1,000,001 questions too. So
awesome. And Kendra, do you want to share quick, if people want to connect with you, if people want to follow along with your journey, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can follow me and find me on social media platforms, Fresh Coast Farm Girl, or you can also email me at kendra@agsustainabilitysolutions.com. And yeah, I would love to answer any questions you have and promise I won't sell you on anything because that is not my business model. Is to help you get to where you're going. And I want to hear your voice so I can help amplify it in the conversations that I'm having with others.
Awesome. I love it. And those will also be linked in the show notes for those of you listening. So you can go right in and find them nice and easy and follow along with Kendra. Thank you all so much for joining me on today's episode of the Dairy Hour podcast. Please share this episode with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes, and go ahead and leave us a rating. And if you send me a screenshot of that rating, I will be sure to send you a little goodie in the mail as well. So have a good day, everyone. And I will talk to you next week. Have a great day.